Along with Baha'is, that's who I am.
Okay. Jim comes to us, he's got a distinguished background in law, which many of you are aware of, but most notably we're all aware of the fact that Jim is the chairman of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States, and has had a very distinguished Baha'i career, and has met so many notable Baha'is and can tell you so many stories, and who knows, maybe he'll tell us some today.
I didn't meet Abu Baha first.
You did? Despite the rumor?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So I think rather than having me go on, I'll just turn it over to Jim. Take the meeting from here.
Aloha, Pa, friends. What a lovely garden to be sitting. I think I'd just sit here and watch. I bring you the love and the greetings of the National Spiritual Assembly, every member of which wishes that he or she could be here among you today. One of the things that we don't get enough opportunity to do is to be out to see friends where they live and where they teach. We spend our major efforts together in quite a nice place on the shores of Lake Michigan. Just the 9 of us, consulting about the affairs of the community. And what we know about the community is basically what people tell us, what we know from what comes to the American Baha'i and from other news sources. But to see and to greet and to know, to realize the great power that exists in the American Baha'i community is a bounty that we don't get but once in a while. So forgive me if I just sort of stare at you in awe during these proceedings. I just can't get over how marvelous and how talented and how energetic the American Baha'i community is. Now I do want to say, before I say anything that halfway sounds official, that I do not speak for the National Spiritual Assembly. I speak for myself alone. And I interpret things according to my understanding, which is okay. I'm required to interpret my understanding. But at any rate, I may give you opinions which do not necessarily reflect those of the sponsor, I mean the National Spiritual Assembly, or the Universal House of Justice, or whatever. I'm going to talk to you, if you don't mind, for a while, about the subject of obedience. And then we'll share what we can about the letter of May 19th from the Universal House of Justice to the National Spiritual Assembly, that is really to you all, which was published in the American Baha'i, which I'm sure you are aware. These two subjects sort of make a package, and I'll try to demonstrate why the subject of obedience is important in this particular day and age. You can't but get half a page into the Kitab Aqdas until you come to the subject of obedience. Because in his most holy book, Baha'u'llah says that there are twin and inseparable duties that must be faced and observed by every believer. The first, of course, is to recognize the messenger of God for the day and age, and to recognize Baha'u'llah. And the second, he says, is to give complete obedience to whatever he has commanded. And then he tells you that they're not really one and two, they're both one. You can't have one without the other. That recognition and obedience are sort of the Siamese twins of the faith. That they go together. Neither is acceptable without the other. Recognition without obedience, or obedience without recognition. And I think we may give some meat to that scenario later on. People wonder why I carry this object around with me. this has come to be my reminder of obedience. Whenever I see a telephone, I'll tell you what. Americans, people who live in this country, doesn't matter where you came from, if you live here, I guarantee you that you will be infected with the cafeteria system of what laws you want to obey. As Americans, all use the cafeteria system. We say, well, I'll take a little of that law, a little of that law, a little of this one. But the rest of them you can have. We obey what we want to obey and disobey what we want to disobey willy-nilly. And it occurred to me that if there were a giant Baha'i cafeteria somewhere up there, from which we could order our laws on the phone, that the scenario would go something about like I'm about to demonstrate. So I'll dial in a Hello? Oh, go. Yeah, is this where I get my laws? No, laws. Oh yeah, oh, put her on. Yes. Are you the distributor of the laws? Oh yeah, yes, I got the book. Well, yes, but I just want to order a few. I know they come as a package. No, my appetite for laws is not so good. I just want to order a few. Well, I don't know what looks good to you. Obligation to engage in a business or profession. Sure, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, well, what goes good with that? Trustworthiness. Yeah. That's not a big helping, is it? All right, put some of that on there. You'd advise courtesy. Courtesy, that sounds lovely. All right, courtesy goes on. Chastity. I don't know, I never tried that. Could we put a little of that on the side?
On the side.
All right. The obligation to obey government. Well, I do that already. Do I need that? Oh, okay. Sure. Obligatory, what? Obligatory prayer. Prayer? Oh, okay. Yeah, sure, yeah. No. That's essential. I agree with that. Yes. You say three sides? Three what? 3 sizes. Oh, okay. Short, medium, and long. Well, which one is the most effective? I'll take the short. You're putting me on. No. It all comes with Coca-Cola. Not Coca-Cola. 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 Oh, yes. Okay, yes. What is that? Oh, all right. Sure, I'll take that. I understand. Yeah. Well, no, I've got a lot of people here, and I'm really not interested in a lot more. I think my plate's pretty full. All right, yes. No. You don't need to call. I'll call you when I want some more. Thank you. Now, that's the way, you see, we would order our laws if we could do it that way. But, alas, the book is given to us as a whole. And with it comes a map of the pitfalls in society. The reason we are compelled to obedience is not just because we want to be blindly obedient to some command. Baha'u'llah says in that book itself that we are obedient because it helps us, not because he needs help. You understand what I mean? God is completely needless of help. We are the people who benefit from obedience to his command. Consider this scenario. There is a wide and beautiful field out here. Well, actually, much as it is, forested, lovely. And our job in life is to cross that field in productivity and in joy until on the other side we reach the place of eternal reunion, the worlds of eternity. That's our journey. Now, the place is beautiful, but in fact, there are pitfalls there. There are sinkholes and vipers and poisonous plants and all sorts of dangers to our journey. Now, you and I are about to start our journey. Someone hands you a map that tells you where all of the bad things are that you should avoid. But nobody gives me a map. Now, as between the two of us, which one of us is more free? The one that is bound by the map, or I who have no map? Is it not obvious that the person with the map is really the one that's free? Because it gets pointed out to them where are the pitfalls in life, where it is possible to be snared by materialism or by some of the vices that are rampant and the corruptions that abound in our society. If you know where they are and to expect them, you may avoid them. You hear people, Americans, use the cafeteria system because they don't want to be restrained. Right? They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be guided. They want to step in their own pitfalls. They would rather not have a map. Can you imagine that? Now, we know the value of this map, the Kitab Aqdas, because we know the map maker. And we know the infallibility of that source of guidance. Therefore, we have no trouble following the map, and the map makes us free. How desperate it is that most of the people of the world are trying to cross this plane without any guidance at all. No wonder they're running afoul of every stone, every low place, and getting bitten by every insect, infected by every disease that is possible to contract. Well, friends, the only really free people in the world are the Baha'is. Because not only do they know where they're going, but they know how to avoid the difficulties on the journey. Now, what we owe to the people around us is the freedom of the man. And yet we tend to want to keep it to ourselves. This is too good to share with anybody. After all, we're going to make it. Right? Well, if we start thinking that way, the map gets taken away. I mean, we no longer are its keepers because it doesn't belong to us not to be shared. It belongs to us to be taught to the people around us, and to be shared with them, and to be offered as a gift of God for this day and age. Freedom, particularly in this country, is understood by Baha'is differently than it's understood by any other population, because freedom is not licensed to do what you want to do. Freedom is to live life in joy and in happiness and in fulfillment. That's what it's about. And that implies some kind of constraint on one's behavior, some kind of giving and loving of one's neighbor that requires restraint and sacrifice of self. This is what it's about. And this is why the Baha'i community has been offered by the Universal House of Justice as an example to the world. Did you realize we've been offered by the Universal House of Justice as an example to the world? Are we ready to be that example? We want to invite everybody in here now and show them how we do this exemplary work. Well, I personally am a little bit short of being able to exhibit what I really want that outside world to see. That's why it was so important that the National Spiritual Assembly, in its ardent desire to serve this nation and to see it progress, sought the help of the Universal House of Justice, beginning in the middle of last year. I wouldn't call it panic on the National Spiritual Assembly because it was high anxiety, would probably be a better word for the condition in which we found ourselves, because we had an unusually high degree of unity and love in the national institution. We had our agencies performing in what we thought was exemplary fashion. We saw everything in place in the American Baha'i community for great and positive and enormous strides, for there to be such a burgeoning of teaching, such an influx of new believers as would astonish the world, that our funds would overflow was surely going to happen. We looked like we were doing all the right things at the right time in the right places. Certainly there were no villains out there undermining what we were doing. And yet it just seemed that stagnation had been a part of the American community. So we thought, if we don't know the answer, we had best ask where the answer should come. So we wrote to the Universal House of Justice. And we said substantially what I've said before. We can't figure out what it is that we're not doing that we should be doing, or what we are not, or we are doing that we shouldn't be doing. But obviously, we know the signs, and we can tell that we're trembling on the brink of a mighty victory, and it's not happening. May we visit you to consult with you about this. We would like a day. And the House of Justice sent back a message and said, no, you can't have a day. You must have 3 days. And not only might you not come immediately, you must come when all 9 members of the Universal House of Justice are present in the Holy Land, and all 9 of your members, if possible, can attend. And so we arranged that we would go during the fast of this year to meet with the Universal House of Justice. All 9 of them were present. All 9 of us were present. And it was more than a transforming experience. Of course,